the door above the basement opened, and Dresden was no longer a city, it was a wall of fire. You are not a soldier tonight, not a commander, not anyone with a map or a weapon. You are only a civilian pulled from an unfinished room, down into a crowded shelter, then back into streets that no longer know their own shape. Every step takes you farther from safety and deeper into smoke, heat, ash, and the terrible question of what survival really means. Tonight, walk through Dresden with me and feel how one ordinary night turned into a memory that would not stop burr. Before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of quiet history is something you truly enjoy. And tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there. I always like seeing how many different places are gathered here for the same story. Now, lower the lights. Let the room become calm around you, and let's step carefully into Dresden together tonight. If you heard the siren in Dresden that night, it would cut through a room that was trying to be normal. A plate remained on the table. A coat hung over a chair. A small bag waited near the door. The room did not look ready for disaster. It looked as if you would step out, then come back and finish the evening. You did not think about maps, armies, or the larger war. You looked around quickly, because the sound outside gave you no room for large thoughts. You wondered what to take. The coat, the papers, a little water. Every object seemed important for 1 second, then useless the next. You could not carry a home downstairs, but leaving it behind with the table still uncleared felt wrong. Dresden had heard alarms before, so fear came mixed with habit. People in the building knew the way to the basement. They knew which neighbor moved slowly and which door stuck. The siren did not make everyone scream. It made them move. That was almost worse, because it meant the city had practiced being afraid. You reached for your coat and the small bag because empty hands felt helpless. For a city surrounded by war, the first cruel joke was that terror still had to wait, while ordinary people looked for coats, keys, and something small enough to carry. You paused near the table longer than you meant to. The bread was still there. A knife lay beside it. A chair had been pushed back at an awkward angle. These were not valuable things, but they made the alarm feel personal. A ruined city can sound huge later, when people speak about it from far away. In that moment, disaster began with your own unfinished room. Then feet began on the stairs outside. Not soldiers, neighbors. The people you passed in the corridor were now moving with you. Someone called for a child. Someone knocked on the door. Someone told an older woman to hold the rail. You stepped into the hallway and felt the building change. It was no longer a place of separate rooms. It had become one narrow body, pushing everyone downward. The stairwell was tight. Shoulders touched. Bags brushed legs. A child was lifted over a step. You smelled wool, dust, cold air, and nervous breath. Nobody knew yet what kind of night this would be. That not knowing made people careful with their voices. They did not want to frighten one another, but they were already frightened. The basement door opened and people pressed inside. The room was low and damp. It smelled of stone, old wood, and bodies arriving too quickly. Someone moved a crate with a foot to make space. Someone spread a coat on the floor for a child. Someone sat against the wall with a bag held close to the chest. You found a place and lowered yourself down. The bag in your hand felt smaller now. It did not protect anything. It only reminded you that no choice had been enough. At first, the basement gave you a little comfort. Thick walls stood between you and the sky. The ceiling was close, but close could be safe. You listened to whispers, coughs, shifting shoes. and the small sounds people make when trying to stay calm. An older man looked up each time the siren changed. A woman held a child against her coat. You tried to breathe quietly, because loud breathing would tell everyone what you felt. A modern emergency drill gives signs, lights, clear exits, and practiced instructions. But that night, your guide was a siren, a stairwell, and the frightened movement of everyone around you. The first distant explosions did not sound as close as you feared. They seemed to belong to another part of the city. The floor trembled lightly, then settled. A few people looked at one another, almost relieved that the sound had stayed away. That is how hope returns in small, foolish pieces. A person does not need much to believe the worst might pass somewhere else. You heard another thud, lower this time, and pressed your fingers into the bag on your lap. Dust began to fall from the ceiling in tiny grains. It landed on sleeves, hair, and the floor. No one spoke about it first. Speaking would make it more real. The air grew warmer because too many bodies were packed into too little space. A man loosened his collar. Someone coughed into a cloth. You noticed that every breath now had weight. The basement was still standing, and that should have been good news. But safety had already begun to crowded. You understood then that protection was not simple. The walls could stop falling glass and flying stone, but they could not give everyone clean air. They could keep you below the blast, but they could also keep you with the heat, dust, and fear. Nobody had done anything foolish. Everyone had followed the only sensible path offered. Still, the sensible path had brought all of you into a place where waiting itself could hurt. A child began to cry, then stopped when the mother pressed the child closer. The silence after that was worse than the crying. People listened upward. You could feel questions moving through the room, even without words. Which street was hit? Which house was burning? Whether your own room still had a table, a coat, a cup, and a door. You wanted to know, but the ceiling gave no answers. I keep coming back to that first basement, because no one inside it was trying to be brave. They were only trying to stay alive in the most ordinary way they knew. The siren had taken you from a half-finished evening and placed you among neighbours whose faces looked pale in the weak light. Above you, Dresden was still a city of streets, roofs, rooms, and people. Below, it had already become breath, dust, shoulders, and waiting. You had not yet seen fire. You had not yet opened the door. You still wanted to believe that the basement was a pause, not a trap. You left the room thinking the basement would put distance between you and danger. Yet the deeper you went, the more your world shrank into warm air, falling dust, and the sound of people trying not to panic. And when the first explosions began moving closer, the unfinished table upstairs no longer felt like something waiting for you, but like a memory from a life already slipping away. You go down the stairs with people you usually only meet for a moment. The old man from the lower floor holds the rail with one hand and a cloth bag with the other. A woman from across the hall keeps a child pressed against her coat. Someone behind you breathes through the mouth because the stairwell is already too narrow. No one looks ready. Everyone looks pulled out of something unfinished. The basement door waits at the bottom. It does not look like a place meant to save anyone. It is low, dark, damp, and crowded with boxes, coal dust, old wood, and things people stored there because they had no better place for them. You have passed it before without caring. Now every step leads toward it because the rooms above feel too close to the sky. People enter without ceremony. They bend their heads, step around crates, push bags under benches, and squeeze into corners. The weak bulb gives every face the same tired colour. Shoulders touch. Knees press against bundles. A child is pulled onto an adult's lap so another person can sit near the wall. The room does not fill with courage, but with people doing the only sensible thing left. For a city afraid of the sky, the safest place still looks like a storage room nobody cleaned properly. You find a space near the wall and lower yourself down. The stone behind your back is cold. For a few seconds, that cold feels steady and useful. Your coat rubs against another sleeve. A shoe presses near foot. Across from you, a woman keeps one hand over her bag, as if the last part of her private life can be held shut with her fingers. A man sits forward and stares at the floor. People speak in small voices. Someone asks whether the children from the upper floor have come down. Someone says a name and looks toward the stairwell. Everyone waits. Then footsteps come, and two more neighbors enter. The room shifts again. Someone moves a knee, someone lifts a parcel. No one complains, because complaining would admit that the room has already become too small. You know these people, but only in the thin way neighbors know one another. You have seen them carrying coal, opening doors, hanging laundry, returning from work, or standing in the corridor with tired eyes. You know their coats better than their lives. Now their fear is close enough to touch. The siren has placed all of you in one room and removed the polite distance that usually keeps strangers separate. The calmness of some faces makes the room colder. An older woman adjusts her scarf. A mother smooths a child's hair again and again. A man folds his hands as if sitting through a long church service. Maybe they have heard enough alarms to learn how to wait. Maybe they do not want the children to see them break. Either way, their calm does not feel peaceful. It feels practiced. A modern building might give you marked exits, bright lights, and clear instructions, but here you have a dim bulb, a crowded stairwell, and neighbors pretending this is still routine. The first minutes turn into counting. You count breaths. You count people. You count the seconds between distant sounds. You hear the building creak above you. You hear a child swallow after trying not to cry. You hear the click of a bag buckle because someone's fingers need a small task. You look toward the stairwell, then look away, because staring at the only way out makes it feel farther away. Your room returns in pieces. The plate, the cup, the coat on the chair. The drawer was left open. It feels strange to sit under the building while your evening remains unfinished details. Part of you wants to go back and close the drawer, take one more thing, move the chair, or do anything that proves the evening still belongs to you. But your body stays where it is. More people come down, and the air changes. The basement does not become larger. It only becomes fuller. A man near the door has to stand because there is nowhere left to sit. A child's shoes hang above the floor as they sit across an adult's knees. Someone coughs into a sleeve. Someone asks for quiet, then looks ashamed. The room is learning how little space fear needs. You begin to notice small things because there is nothing bigger to see. Dust on a woman's hat, cracked skin on an old man's knuckles, a child gripping one on a coat, a paper parcel tied with a string. These details stay in your eyes. Outside, aircraft may be crossing the dark. Inside, the night has become tired faces under weak light. What stays with you is not one heroic face, but all the ordinary faces trying to look calm while the place above them begins to shake. Most people in that basement have no power over the war above them. They know ration lines, cold rooms, missing men, careful words, and the habit of lowering their voices when certain subjects come too close. They live under a regime that has brought ruin across Europe, but in this room they are not holding maps or orders. They are holding children, coats, bags, and the small things people grab when they are afraid of losing everything. The first deep rumble moves through the walls before anyone can understand it. The bulb trembles, dust falls from the ceiling. The old man by the wall closes his eyes as if making himself smaller might help. The child across from you stops moving. No one has to say that the sound is closer than before. The basement holds, and that should comfort you. Instead, it makes everyone listen harder. When a place survives one blast, people start waiting for the next. Even breathing becomes careful. You look at the faces around you and understand that each person is doing the same private work, imagining rooms upstairs while trying not to picture them breaking. There is nowhere else to go. You came down with people who had once been only faces in the hallway. Now their bags, coats, children, coughs, and tired eyes are crowded around you in a room too small for all the fear it has to hold. And as the tremors move closer, the basement no longer feels like a place beneath the house, but like the last thin layer between your body and the burning sky. You sit in the basement because that is where people are supposed to be safer. The thick walls are around you. The ceiling is low, the door is shut. Above your head, the city belongs to sirens, aircraft, and falling weight, but down here there is stone between your body and the sky. At first, that thought helps. It gives your fear a simple shape. Stay below, stay still. Wait, the room is crowded now. People have settled into corners, along walls, near crates, beside bags, under the weak bulb that shakes each time the building trembles. You sit with your knees close and your shoulders drawn in. A child leans against an adult's coat. An old man keeps one hand on the floor, feeling each distant movement before his face changes. Everyone has accepted the same small rule. The basement is where you survive. For a while the walls seem strong. They make the explosions sound held back. They turn the danger into something muffled and heavy. You cannot see the street. You cannot see the roofs. You cannot see the rooms above. That blindness almost feels useful at first, because not seeing gives your mind less to hold. You tell yourself that the basement is doing its job. For a place meant to save you, it begins by asking you to sit still in the dark and trust a ceiling you cannot inspect. Then the air starts changing. Not all at once. It becomes heavier in small ways, a little too warm near your face, a little too stale when you breathe in. Too many coats, bodies, bags, and frightened mouths are packed into too little space. Someone shifts, and the whole row has to shift with them. Someone coughs. Someone wipes sweat from the upper lip with the back of a hand. The stone wall behind you no longer feels as cold as before. You loosen your collar. The movement is small, but you notice others doing the same thing. A man pulls at his scarf. A woman lifts the edge of a cloth to her mouth. A child complains softly, then is hushed. Nobody wants to say the room is hard to breathe in, because saying it would make everyone breathe harder. So the discomfort stays quiet. It moves from face to face without becoming a sentence. Dust falls again from the ceiling. It is not much, only fine grains that land on hair, sleeves, shoulders, and the floor. But down here, small things matter. Dust makes the air thicker. Heat makes coats feel too heavy. Fear makes every breath feel shorter than it should be. The basement is still standing. That should be enough. Yet your body has begun to understand something your mind does not want to accept. The place protecting you is also holding you. A locked door can feel safe when danger is outside, until you notice that the same door is also keeping all the heat, dust, and panic in with you. You look toward the stairwell, but no one is moving that way. The door is closed, and behind it is the world everyone came down here to avoid. You imagine opening it for a second. fresh air, more space, a chance to know what is happening above. Then another tremor passes through the walls and it disappears. Outside might be worse. Inside is bad, but it is known. That is how people stay where they are. Not because they are calm, but because every other choice looks larger and darker. Someone near the wall asks if the air feels warmer. No one answers quickly. A few people glance at each other. An older woman fans a child with her hand, though it hardly helps. A man says something about waiting a little longer. Waiting a little longer becomes the answer to everything. You wait through the next breath. You wait for someone else to decide when waiting has become dangerous. The weak bulb shakes again. Its light runs across faces and makes them look flat and tired. A child's hair is dusted pale at the top. A woman has one hand at her throat. The old man beside the wall opens his eyes and looks at the ceiling as if he expects it to speak. You hear the scrape of shoes, the drag of a crate, the soft panic of bodies trying to make more room without admitting there is none. There is no villain in the basement. No one is choosing badly because they are foolish. Everyone has done the sensible thing. They have gone down, taken cover, stayed together, and kept the children close. But war can make even sensible actions turn against the people who take them. It can make a basement become both shelter and trap. It can make survival depend on staying inside a room that your own lungs slowly begin to mistrust. The lesson is not loud, it sits there with the dust. Ordinary people are often told where to go in danger, but they are rarely given a good choice. They are given the least terrible place and asked to call it safe. You feel that clearly now. The basement is not failing in one dramatic moment. It is becoming frightening by doing what it was built to do, closing you away from the world above. The hardest part is that no one can point to the exact second safety changes into being trapped, because by the time you notice it, your body has already known for a while. A woman across from you lowers her bag to the floor and uses both hands to hold the child on her lap. The child's face is red from heat and fear. Near the door, a man stands with his head bent because there is no room for him to sit. Sweat has made a dark line at his collar. He keeps looking at the handle without touching it. That handle has become the most important object in the room, and everyone knows it. You remember your room above again, but now it feels farther away. The table, the coat, the cup, the drawer. All of it belongs to a place with air and height and space between furniture. Down here, everything has been pressed close. Fear has a smell now. Warm cloth, damp stone, dust and tired breath. Nobody says much. The silence is not peaceful. It is the silence of people saving strength. Another tremor moved through the building. Dust drops harder this time, and someone covers their head. A child cries once, then is pulled close. The bulb flickers, returns, and keeps shaking. You feel your own breath catch, not from courage, not from shock, but from the simple fact that there is not enough ease left in the room. The basement has not collapsed. It has not burned. It has only made every person inside understand how small safety can become. You came down believing the walls would separate you from danger. But the longer you sit there, the more the air itself begins to feel used, warm and shared by too many frightened mouths. By the time the next explosions come closer, you begin to understand that the first enemy may not be the fire outside, but the closed room that everyone is still too afraid to leave. At first, the explosions sound far away. They do not seem to belong to your street yet. They roll through the ground like bad weather on the other side of Dresden, heavy, low and distant enough for people to pretend there is still space between them and danger. Someone lifts their head. Someone else keeps both hands on a bag. You stay seated against the wall and listen. The basement is quiet in a careful way. No one wants to speak over the sounds above. The bulb swings a little, then settles. Dust lies on shoulders and hair from the last tremor. The air is still warm, still crowded, still hard to trust. But for a few moments the bombs seem to be falling somewhere else. That is enough for hope to return, even if nobody says it out loud. You know how cruel that small hope is. People begin measuring safety by distance. If the sound is faint, maybe the street is safe. If the floor barely moves, maybe the building will hold. If no one screams from above, maybe your rooms are still there. These are not strong thoughts. They are only the kind of thoughts frightened people use to get through the next minute. For a night like this, comfort can become as small as realizing the last explosion did not land directly over your head. Then another sound comes, deeper than the one before. The floor gives a short jump under your shoes. The old man beside the wall places both palms flat on the ground, as if he can read the city through stone. Across from you, a mother pulls her child closer before the child even asks. A few people look toward the ceiling. No one laughs. No one pretends now that the sound is only far away. The next rumble is closer again. It arrives through the walls before your ears fully catch it. The basement seems to tighten. The bulb trembles harder. A little dust falls in a thin line from a crack above and lands on a woman's sleeve. She brushes it once, then stops, because brushing dust away suddenly feels useless. More will come. Everyone understands that without saying it. You cannot see the aircraft. You cannot see the fires starting, the streets breaking, the roofs lifting, or the people above running for shelter. You only have the body's version of knowledge. The floor shakes. The wall presses cold against your back. The air jumps in your chest. Your hands tighten on your knees before you decide to tighten them. Your body knows the distance is getting shorter. A person can be afraid of something they cannot see, because the body often understands danger before the mind can make a clear picture of it. Someone whispers that it is getting closer. The whisper does not help. It only gives words to what everyone already feels. The old man's hands stay on the floor. Each time the ground moves, his fingers spread wider. He is not praying. He is not measuring anything useful. He is only trying to feel the warning before the rest of him has to face it. Children hear it too. That changes the room. Earlier, adults could still pretend the children were confused by the alarm, the crowd, the basement, or the waiting. Now even the youngest faces turn toward the sounds above. A child who had been half asleep opens their eyes. Another presses their face into a coat. When children understand fear without being told, the adults lose one more protection. The walls shake lightly, then harder. Boxes scrape against the floor. A jar rolls somewhere in the darkness and stops against a crate. Someone gasps, then covers their mouth. The air seems to thicken after every blast. You smell dust more clearly now, dry and bitter. It settles on the tongue. You swallow, but the taste remains. The basement is still standing, yet every sound makes it feel more temporary. You think of the rooms above again. The table, the coat, the chair, the cup. Each explosion seems to move through those objects in your mind. You imagine the cup falling. You imagine glass across the floor. You imagine the coat slipping from the chair without anyone there to pick it up. These are small pictures, but they hurt because they are yours. I think this is where fear becomes heavier, when the danger is still unseen, but already touching everything you left behind. No one in the basement can make the sounds stop. No one can tell which street has been hit, which house is gone, which door has burned, which family is already looking for someone. People can only listen and wait while the city above is turned into guesses. That is its own kind of suffering. Not knowing does not protect you, it only makes your mind walk through every possible loss before the door opens. A stronger blast comes, and the whole room bends into silence. The bulb swings hard. Dust falls on your hair. Someone cries out once. The old man's palms press against the floor as if he were holding the building down. You feel the wall strike your back through your coat. For a second, there is no past room, no future street, no thought of mourning. There is only stone, breath, dust, and the next sound. After it passes, nobody moves quickly. People wait to see if the ceiling will answer. It does not fall. The room remains. That should feel like mercy, but it only teaches everyone to fear the next moment. Survival comes in pieces now, one blast at a time, one breath at a time, one tremor that does not bring the ceiling down. The strange thing is that the basement still looks almost the same. The same faces, the same bags, the same child held too tightly, the same weak light, but nothing inside you feels the same. The faraway war has moved closer without showing itself. It has entered through the floor, through the walls, through your ribs, through the way every person now listens before breathing. The first explosions seemed to belong to another part of Dresden. Then the floor began to jump, the walls began to shake, and even the children understood that the distance was closing. When the next rumble moves under your hands, you no longer need to see the sky to know that the city above you is being broken street by street. There is no way to know which house is burning above you. That is the worst part. You hear Dresden breaking, but you cannot see where. Every sound reaches the basement without a picture. A heavy blast may be the next street, or a roof far away, or the building where someone you know still lives. The basement keeps you alive, but it also keeps you blind. Dust hangs in the weak light now. It does not all fall at once. It gathers slowly, grain by grain, until shoulders, scarves, hair, and bags begin to look the same dull color. You wipe your sleeve once, then stop. More dust comes. It lands on your hand, on your coat, on the child sitting across from you. The whole room seems to be turning grey while everyone waits below a city they can no longer reach. People begin to guess. Someone says the last blast sounded like it came from the market side. Someone else thinks it was nearer the church. A man near the wall turns his head and says nothing, because maybe his family's rooms are in that direction. A woman asks if anyone smelled smoke before the last rumble. No one knows how to answer. Down here, every answer is only fear wearing the shape of a guess. For a place full of people listening so carefully, the basement gives almost no useful information at all. You try to remember the streets above in order, the corner, the shop, the doorway, the stairs, your own building entrance. But each explosion rearranges the map in your mind. You do not know what still stands. You do not know what has caught fire. You do not know whether the table you left behind is still under the ceiling. That not knowing begins to feel like another kind of smoke. The air tastes dirty. Dust mixes with breath, heat, and the smell of damp stone. Someone coughs and cannot stop right away. Another person presses a cloth over the mouth. You do the same with your sleeve, but it helps only a little. The cloth grows warm from your own breathing. You lower it, then raise it again. You are not choosing comfort now. You are only choosing the smaller discomfort. A child asks where the smoke is coming from. The mother says it is only dust. Maybe she believes that for 1 second. Maybe she says it because the truth would not help the child breathe. The child looks at the ceiling as if smoke has a face. Then another tremor moves through the building. and dust slips from a crack in a thin, pale line. Everyone looks up. Nobody wants to be the first to look afraid. The basement has become a room made of signs that cannot be trusted. A louder sound may be close, or it may have travelled strangely through the streets. A warmer wall may mean fire, or only too many bodies pressed inside. A smell of smoke may mean the building above you, or another building feeding its smoke into the dark. You want certainty, but the night only gives fragments. A message on a phone can tell someone exactly where danger is now, but you have only dust, guesses, and the changing faces of people who know no more than you do. The old man keeps both hands near the floor. He feels each vibration before he looks up. He has become a kind of living instrument, though no one says it. When his face tightens, others watch him. When he's still, a few people breathe easier. It is not fair to make one frightened man into a warning system, but people need something to read when the world above has disappeared. You listen for voices from outside. There are none that you can trust. Sometimes a sound might be a shout. Sometimes it might be wood cracking, glass falling, or the building settling after a blast. The basement makes everything dull and strange. Human sounds and broken things become hard to separate. You begin to understand how easily fear can invent news when real news cannot reach you. Someone near the door whispers that their sister lives 2 streets away. Nobody answers. What can anyone say? To comfort them would be to pretend. To agree with their fear would be cruel. So the room gives them silence. The person lowers their head and grips their bag harder. In that moment, the bag looks less like luggage and more like the only thing their hands can still control. You think of all the rooms above the city, not as a map, but as small places like yours. A chair pushed back, a kettle, a blanket, a drawer, a child's shoe near a bed. Every blast may be landing on one of those ordinary rooms. That thought is worse than imagining a nameless fire. A city is not only streets and roofs, it is thousands unfinished evenings, all being interrupted at once. What hurts is not only that Dresden is being hit, but that you can hear ordinary lives being taken apart without knowing whose life each sound belongs to. No one in the basement can go up to check. That is the helplessness. You can sit, breathe badly, listen, cough, guess, and wait. You can imagine your own door. You can imagine the neighbours' doors. You can imagine the street beyond the stairwell, though each image may already be wrong. The walls are thick enough to block your eyes, but not thick enough to block your fear. The dust thickens on clothing. A woman wipes it from a child's hair with a shaking hand. The child is too tired to complain. Near the wall, a man takes off his hat and turns it in his hands. It is covered in pale powder. He looks at it for a long moment, as if that dust has arrived from the rooms above and brought a piece of the city down to him. The next blast makes the bulb swing. A crate shifts. Someone gasps. Dust falls harder now, not like a thin film, but like the ceiling is shedding the city one layer at a time. You bend your head without thinking. Your hands come up to protect yourself, though they could not stop anything large. When the shaking passes, the room is quieter than before. You do not know what has burned. You only know the basement has more dust in it than it had a minute ago. You only know people are looking at one another for answers that no one has. You only know the air has become harder to breathe and the silence after each blast has become harder to bear. The city above you is turning into sound, smell, and powder. You sit under Dresden without knowing which street is gone, which roof is burning, or which room has already disappeared. The dust on your coat becomes the only proof that something from above is reaching you, even while the walls keep every clear answer out. When the next silence comes, it does not feel like safety anymore, because everyone in the basement is waiting for the sound that might belong to their own home. The silence comes so suddenly that nobody trusts it at first. One moment, the basement is shaking with dust, breath, and distant breaking. Then the sounds above pull back, leaving only coughs, small movements, and the weak buzz of the bulb. You keep waiting for the next rumble. Your body does not believe the quiet. It stays tight, as if the floor might jump again without warning. People lift their heads slowly. No one stands at once. The old man near the wall keeps his palms to the ground for a few more seconds, then lets them rest on his knees. A child looks at the adults before deciding whether it is safe to move. Someone breathe out too loudly, and sound that makes others notice their own breath. The basement has not become peaceful. It has only stopped being attacked for a moment. Dust still floats in the light. It rests on scarves, hair, sleeves, bags, and faces. Everyone looks older beneath it. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand and taste grit. Your throat feels dry. Your chest wants deeper air. The silence makes that desire stronger, because now you can hear how hard people have been breathing. The room seems full of lungs that have been waiting for permission to work again. For a room full of frightened people, a few quiet seconds can feel like good news, even when nothing has truly been proven safe. Someone near the stairs shifts their weight. That small movement is enough to make others look toward the door. The door has become the center of the room again. While the blasts were close, everyone feared the ceiling. Now the danger seems to have moved outside, and the outside begins to tempt people. Fresh air, a wider space, a chance to know what happened, a chance to find someone. A woman asks if anyone should check the stairwell. She does not speak loudly. She says it like a question meant for the whole room and no one in particular. A man answers that it may be better to wait. Another says the worst might be over. The word worst hangs there longer than it should. Nobody knows what worst means yet, but everyone wants the word to belong to the past. You understand why they want to believe it. The body cannot stay afraid at the same level forever. It looks for a break. It accepts any pause as a sign. The floor has stopped shaking. The bulb has steadied. No fresh dust is falling. These are small things, but after the last few minutes, small things feel large. You begin to breathe a little deeper, too, not because you are sure, but because you are tired of holding yourself so tightly. A person does not need proof to hope. Sometimes, exhaustion is enough to make silence sound like rescue. The first thoughts are practical. Someone wants to go upstairs for water. Someone else says there may be an older neighbour still above. A mother asks if the air near the stairs is better. A man touches his coat pocket and remembers something he left behind. You think of your own room, and the thought arrives quickly. The plate, the coat on the chair, the cup, the drawer. The small things begin calling again because the noise has stopped covering them. That is the danger of a pause. It gives the mind space to return home before the body can. You imagine stepping back into the hallway, climbing the stairs, opening your door, and finding everything shaken but still there. Maybe dust on the table, maybe a cup on the floor, maybe broken glass but nothing worse. It is not a foolish hope. It is the kind of hope ordinary people need to stand up after fear. The basement begins to move in small ways. Someone stretches a leg, someone adjusts a scarf. Someone lifts a child higher on the lap. A man near the door leans closer to the stairwell, listening. The faces around you turn the same way, pale and dusty under the light. For the first time in a while, People are not only listening for bombs, they are listening for permission to leave. No one knows that silence can arrive between dangers, not only after them. Down here, quiet feels like an ending because that is what people want from it. But above the basement, the city has not become whole again just because the sound has stopped. Fires can grow while people breathe easier. Smoke can move while people call it over. Damage can be waiting behind a door that everyone is suddenly eager to open. What makes the pause cruel is that it does not lie with words. It only lets tired people believe the thing they most need to believe. You watch a man stand halfway, then stop when others look at him. His hand rests on the wall, dust falls from his sleeve. He says he only wants to look. Nobody tells him yes. Nobody tells him no. That is how helpless the room has become. Every choice seems to belong to everyone, but no one can carry the blame if it turns wrong. Stay too long, and someone may need air. Open too early, and something worse may come in. A child asks if they can go home now. The mother does not answer immediately. She brushes dust from the child's hair and looks toward the stairs. Her face gives away more than her words would. She wants the same thing. Everyone wants the same thing. Home has become a direction, not a place anyone can confirm still exists. The quiet stretches. It becomes almost believable. People begin to hear smaller sounds from the building. A creak, a faint shift above. Something falling far away, not loud enough to be called a blast. Maybe those sounds are harmless. Maybe they are warnings you cannot tell. The basement has taught you that not knowing can be as heavy as bad news. You breathe in and feel the stale air scrape your throat. The need for air grows stronger now that panic has loosened a little. The room is still crowded, still warm, still thick with dust and bodies. Survival has not made anyone comfortable. It has only kept everyone in place long enough to feel how badly they want to leave. A man near the door finally takes one step toward the stairs. The whole basement watches him. He has not opened anything yet. He only listens. His face is turned upward, toward the city none of you can see. You feel your own body lean slightly in that direction. Not enough to stand. Enough to show that hope has already started pulling at you. The silence makes every dusty face turn toward the stairs. For one tired moment, the basement wants to believe the worst has passed. Because believing anything else would mean staying trapped in the same warm, breathless dark. But above that closed door, Dresden is not finished with the night, and the danger waiting there is quieter than the bombs that brought you down. The quiet does not last long enough to comfort. The basement only listens. Faces stay turned toward the stairs. A few shoulders drop. Someone breathes out. Someone wipes dust from a child's hair. You want to believe it too, because your chest is tired from holding fear. Then the air changes. It is not dramatic at first. The room simply feels warmer, not the ordinary warmth of too many bodies in a closed space, but a dry heat coming from somewhere beyond the door. You notice it on your face. You notice it in your throat. The cloth over your mouth feels less helpful than before. Someone near the stairs says they smell smoke, and the word makes the basement smaller. The bombs had been frightening because they struck and passed. They shook the floor, dropped dust, made everyone freeze, then left a silence behind. Fire is different. It does not leave quickly. It moves through rooms, doors, curtains, roofs, and stairwells. It waits in wood and cloth. It eats what the bombs have opened. That is what no one in the basement wants to understand yet. For a night that had already been cruel enough, it was almost generous of Dresden to offer a slower kind of terror. A red light appears near the door. At first, it is only a faint line under the crack. weak enough for someone to deny it. Then it grows stronger and touches the lower wall. Faces that were grey with dust begin to change colour. A child points at it without speaking. The mother lowers the child's hand and pulls them close. Nobody wants to look, but everyone looks. The door had meant escape a few minutes earlier. It had meant the stairs, the hallway, the rooms above, and the chance to breathe air that did not belong to everyone else. Now the same door means heat. It means smoke. It means the part of the city you cannot see pressing against the only way out. You understand that the basement has not failed, but it has stopped feeling simple. People shift away from the door, though there is almost nowhere to shift. A man covers his mouth with his sleeve. A woman bends over the child in her lap, so the child breathes through her coat. Someone says to stay low. No one answers because no one knows. The room is full of people waiting for information that they cannot access. A fire outside the door is not something you watch from a safe distance. It arrives through your lungs before you fully see it. The old man by the wall is no longer feeling the floor with his palms. He is watching the red line near the door. A younger man stands halfway up, then stops. His hand rises toward the handle and falls back. Everyone sees it. To open the door might bring air. It might also bring smoke and heat into the only room still holding people alive. That is the trap. Staying inside means bad air, heat, dust, and too many frightened bodies. Going out may mean broken stairs, burning wood, smoke in the hallway, and streets no one can cross. Both choices sound wrong. No one in the basement is foolish. Everyone came here because this was the sensible place to go. Now, sensible has turned narrow. You think of your room above, the table, the coat, the cup, the chair pushed back. Before, these things were only unfinished. Now they may be burning. You cannot check, you cannot save them. You cannot even know if the room still exists as your mind keeps it. That helplessness sits heavily in your chest, heavier than the bag beside your feet. Smoke begins to make people cough. Some try to hide it, because coughing spreads fear faster than words. Others cannot stop. A child coughs after crying, and the sound cuts through the room. The mother presses a cloth to the child's mouth and looks around, as if someone must know what to do. No one does. There is only cloth, bent heads, and the hope that the air will last. What stays with you is how small survival comes. Only a damp sleeve over the mouth, and one more breath that does not burn too badly. The red light grows stronger. It does not fill the basement, but it changes enough to make the room feel different. Dust on coats turns dull red. The bulb above still hangs there, weak and trembling, while the fire outside gives the walls a harder colour. Nobody needs to say that something close is burning. The room has already understood it. You hear sounds from above that are not bombs. Wood cracks, something heavy drops, a wall or beam gives way somewhere. These noises are quieter than explosions, but they are worse in another way. They mean the city is not only being hit, it is changing after the hit. It is becoming a place made of smoke, heat, broken stairs, and blocked doors. A man near the door says they may have to move. Another says they should wait. Both sound reasonable. Both sound dangerous. Nobody trusts the answer. You look from one face to another and see that nobody has enough knowledge to lead. The basement is full of guesses again, only now the guesses have heat behind them. Your eyes begin to water. You blink for one moment and the light blurs. The people around you seem closer than before. The ceiling seems lower. The stairs seem farther away. You pull at your collar because the skin at your neck feels too warm. Your hand comes away dusty. You breathe through cloth and taste old fabric, grit and smoke. This is the second shock of the night. Surviving the first bombing did not mean the night had spared you. The bombs opened the city, but the fire stayed. It moved into the places people had trusted. It turned air into something people counted. It made the door both a hope and a threat. The danger was no longer only above you. It was around you, slowly taking the room apart from the inside. The bombs made everyone's danger to arrive in sudden blows. Then the red light reached the basement door. The air grew hotter, and people understood that fire could stay longer than the sound that brought it. When smoke begins to change every breath, the question is no longer whether the ceiling will hold, but whether the shelter can keep pretending to be safe. Air becomes the most important thing in the basement. Not the bag beside your foot, not the coat on your shoulders, not the papers someone folded carefully before coming down. All of those things mattered when the siren first sounded. They gave people something to hold, something that felt like a piece of home. But now the room has changed. The only thing anyone truly wants is another clean breath. You notice it in small ways. People stop checking their bags. They stop adjusting parcels and blankets. Hands move instead toward mouths, collars, throats, and children's faces. A woman presses a cloth over her lips. A man pulls his scarf loose and bends forward. Someone lowers their head because the air near the floor feels slightly less hot. No one has been told to do this. Bodies begin learning before people can explain. The basement is still crowded. It is warmer now, and the warmth no longer feels like the heat of people packed close together. It has weight. It sits on your face and neck. Dust clings to your tongue. Scratches the back of your throat. You breathe in and feel your chest resist. You breathe out and need another breath too soon. For all the things people carried downstairs, it turns out the one thing they needed most was the one thing nobody could pack in a bag. A child begins to cough. The mother bends over them and holds a damp-looking cloth against the small mouth. Maybe it was not damp at first. Maybe it only became that way from breath, fear, and sweat. The child's eyes are red. The mother tries to make space around them, but there is no space to make. She shifts one knee. Someone beside her moves a little. Another person presses closer to the wall. That is all the room can give. You pull your own sleeve over your mouth. It smells of dust, wool, and your own skin. It helps for a few seconds, then becomes warm and useless. You lower it, cough, and raise it again. Breathing through cloth feels bad. Breathing without it feels worse. The choice is not between comfort and discomfort anymore. It is between one bad thing and another bad thing that arrives faster. Near the door, a man leans with his back against the wall. His eyes are wet from smoke. He keeps blinking, not crying, not exactly. His hand is pressed to his mouth with a handkerchief. The wall behind him is no longer cool. He shifts away from it, then finds only another body, another bag, another pair of knees. He stays where he is because the room has no spare space left. The old things people brought down begin to look almost foolish now. A blanket that seemed useful traps heat. A heavy coat that seemed necessary presses against your chest. A small case takes up space where someone's foot could rest. Nobody throws these things away yet, because they are still afraid of losing everything. But in the heat and smoke, those belongings shrink in meaning. Breath becomes larger than property. A warm coat can matter on a cold night, but inside that basement, it begins to feel like a burden your lungs did not ask to carry. Someone suggests moving the children closer to the stairwell. Then, someone else says the stairwell may be worse. People look toward the door. The red light is still there, weak but steady. No one knows where the better air is. That is what makes every suggestion dangerous. A good idea in 1 minute can become a mistake in the next. So people trade small places, half steps and folded knees, trying to improve something that cannot really be fixed. You feel your thoughts become slower. It is not sleep. It is not calm. It is the body using too much effort for simple breathing. The room seems closer to your face. The voices become harder to follow. A cough begins on one side, then another answers it across the room. Someone whispers for quiet, but the coughing is not a choice. The body does not obey politeness when the air turns bad. A woman removes a scarf from her neck and folds it over a child's mouth. Her own throat is bare now, streaked with dust and sweat. She breathes without protection for a moment, watching the child instead of herself. There is nothing grand about it. No one claps. No one names it courage. It is only what a person does when a smaller body is struggling next to them. You understand then that fear has moved inside the body. Earlier, fear was the siren, the floor shaking, the ceiling dust, the red light under the door. Now fear is your own breath, not coming easily enough. It is the tightness in your chest. It is the heat behind your eyes. It is the question of whether you can sit here 1 more minute, then another after that. What frightens you most is not one dramatic moment, but the simple thought that your own body may become too tired to keep doing the ordinary work of breathing. The people around you are reduced to small actions. Press cloth, bend lower, turn a child's face away from the smoke, loosen a collar, share a little space, wait. Nobody can stop the fire above. Nobody can make the basement larger. Nobody can order clean air into the room. The war outside has become a private struggle inside each chest. The weak bulb shakes again, but fewer people look up now. They are busy breathing. Dust gathers on eyelashes and brows. Someone's hand leaves a pale mark on a dark sleeve. A child's head rests against a mother's shoulder, too tired to lift. The man near the wall slides down a little, then catches himself. His handkerchief stays pressed against his mouth. You think of the things you carried. They were chosen in a hurry, under the sound of the siren, when the danger still seemed like something outside the body. Now you would trade all of them for a cooler room, a clear stairwell, a window that opened to clean night air. But there is no window here. There is only the door, the heat beyond it, and the question no one wants to speak. The basement has not collapsed. That fact matters, but it is no longer enough. A place can remain standing and still become dangerous. A person can be protected from falling stone and still be harmed by air that grows worse minute by minute. This is the part nobody imagines clearly before the night begins. Survival can become narrow, quiet, and bodily. It can become the distance between one breath and the next. The bags, coats, and blankets that mattered at first now sit uselessly around people who only want air. Every cough makes the basement feel lower, every breath feels borrowed, and every small space near the floor becomes more valuable than anything carried from home. As the room grows hotter and the cloth at your mouth no longer helps enough, the next to fear is not the blast above, but the door that may have to open before anyone is ready. A sound comes from the other side of the door, and the whole basement freezes. It is not an explosion, it is smaller than that. A knock, maybe, a hit against the wood. Then something like a voice, broken by smoke and distance. You cannot tell if it is one person or more than one. You only know it is human enough to make everyone stop breathing for a moment. The door has already become the most feared thing in the room. A few minutes ago, people looked at it because they wanted air. Now they look at it because someone may be on the other side, close enough to touch, close enough to be saved, close enough to bring danger in with them. You stare at the handle. Other people stare too. Nobody moves, but another sound comes. A dull strike, then a faint call. A child turns toward it, but the mother pulls the child closer. A man near the stairs stands halfway, then stops. His hand rises a little, not all the way to the handle. Someone whispers that there are people outside. Someone else whispers that there is smoke outside. Both are true enough to make the room worse. For all the terrible things war asks of people, one of the ugliest is making kindness feel dangerous. You can imagine the person outside. Maybe they are a neighbor from upstairs. Maybe they are someone from the street who found the basement door by chance. Maybe they are burned, coughing, half blind from smoke, trying the first door they can reach. The thought makes your stomach tighten. You also imagine the door opening and the room filling with hot air, smoke, sparks, and panic. That thought tightens your chest even more. No one inside is cruel. That is what makes it harder. If the choice were between good people and bad people, it would be simple. But the basement is full of frightened people who have children in their arms, old parents beside them, and too little air already. Saving one person outside might risk every person inside. Refusing the door might leave someone alive on the other side until they are not. There is no clean place to stand. The knocking becomes weaker, then comes again. People look at one another, searching for someone who will decide. Nobody wants the decision, but everyone wants the guilt to belong somewhere. A woman presses the cloth harder over her mouth. The old man by the wall lowers his eyes. A younger man takes one step toward the door and stops because the heat near it pushes against his face. A locked door is easy to understand in ordinary life, but in that basement, it becomes a question nobody has the courage or information to answer. You feel your own hand lift from your knee. It does not reach forward. It only rises a little, as if your body wants to help before your mind stops it. Then another cough spreads through the room, harsh and dry. The child across from you bends into the mother's coat. The old woman near the wall begins breathing faster. You lower your hand again. Shame comes quickly, even though you have done nothing. Someone says not yet. Someone else says they will die out there. The words do not become an argument. There is not enough strength for that. They fall into the room and stay there. The door makes another sound, softer now. You cannot tell if it is a fist, a shoulder, or only something loose striking the wood from the other side. Smoke curls near the gap. The red light under the door grows stronger for a moment. Everyone sees it. That small line of light makes the choice feel less like a moral question and more like a physical threat. You understand how fear protects the living and wounds them at the same time. It holds people back from danger, then leaves them with the memory of being held back. What stays with you is not that anyone wanted to abandon another person, but that everyone understood how quickly one open door could turn the whole shelter into a death sentence. The knocking fades. Maybe the person has moved away. Maybe they have fallen. Maybe they were never at the door at all, and the room has only turned noise into guilt. You do not know. That is the worst part. The basement gives you no proof. Only the handle, the heat, the smoke, and the silence after the sound stops. No one speaks for a while. The man near the door steps back. His face looks older than it did before. A woman wipes at her eyes, though smoke gives her a reason not to explain the tears. You look at the door and feel that something in the room has changed. The bombs frightened people. The fire trapped people. But this has made everyone look at themselves. The sound outside the door leaves the basement quieter than any explosion did. No one knows whether keeping it closed saved the people inside or abandoned someone just beyond reach. While the handle stays untouched, the next fear grows around it, because soon the door itself will begin to feel hot to be a way out. The handle is the first thing you notice, darker than before, almost black in the red light. No one has touched it since the knocking stopped. People look toward it, then look away quickly, as if looking too long might force them to decide. You sit with the cloth near your mouth and understand that the door is no longer only an exit. It has become a warning. A door should mean movement. It should mean leaving one room for another. It should mean a way out when the air grows bad. But this door has begun to mean the opposite. Heat gathers around it. The wood looks dry and strained. The red line at the bottom is brighter now, and smoke curls through the gap. Someone near the stairs reaches one hand toward the door, then stops before touching it. The hand hangs there, fingers open, then drops back. Everyone has already imagined what those fingers might feel. Hot metal, hot wood, a warning from the street above. For a room full of people waiting for a way out, it is a bitter little lesson to learn that the exit can become the thing everyone fears most. The air in the basement is worse now. It is heat, dust, damp cloth, old stone, sweat and fear. People breathe through sleeves, scarves and handkerchiefs. Some lower themselves closer to the floor, others are too crowded to move much. A child rests against a mother's chest, and the mother keeps one hand over the child's mouth with a dirty cloth. You want someone to decide. You want a voice to say stay, go, wait, or open it now. But no one has enough knowledge to speak with certainty. The people nearest the door know the heat best. The people farther back know the air is failing. Everyone is right to be afraid, and that makes the room worse. The door changes how people look at each other. Earlier, the basement held one shared fear. Now fear has directions. Those near the door fear what may come in. Those deeper inside fear not getting out in time. The old man by the wall keeps his eyes lowered. A woman whispers that the children need air. Another person whispers that the stairs may already be burning. A clean choice belongs to peaceful rooms. In this basement, every possible answer seems to carry smoke with it. You look at the handle again. It is not glowing. It is not dramatic. It is only dark, still, and too important. If it had been burning openly, perhaps everyone would understand. If the door had collapsed, the decision would have been taken away. Instead, it remains closed and possible. It keeps asking whether someone should test it, and nobody wants to provide the answer. A man finally takes a step forward. He wraps cloth around his fingers first. That small act tells everyone he expects pain. The cloth is thin, but it is all he has. He touches the handle quickly, then pulls back. His face tightens. He does not shout. He does not need to. The handle is too hot to hold. The room sees it, and a small hope dies quietly. No one says the word trapped, but it is everywhere. It is in the way people shift their bodies. It is in the way mouths stay covered. It is in the way children are pulled closer. Staying means bad air. Leaving means heat beyond the door. Waiting means both may get worse. Sometimes being trapped only means every path hurts differently. What stays with you is the silence after his hand leaves the handle, because everyone understands the answer and nobody knows what to do with it. The basement feels smaller after that. The walls seem closer. The ceiling seems lower. The stairwell looks longer, though it has not changed. You can hear someone crying softly, trying not to waste breath. You can hear a man coughing into both hands. You can hear the cloth at your own mouth moving with each weak breath. The rooms upstairs no longer feel reachable. They belong to another world, one with doors that open normally and stairs that lead somewhere. Down here, the door is a border. On this side, people are short of breath. On the other side, heat waits with smoke behind it. Neither side feels safe. A small piece of ash slips under the basement door and lands near the threshold. It is tiny, almost nothing. Still, several people see it. The red light touches it. A woman pulls her feet back, though the ash cannot hurt her. Fear does not always measure size. It measures what something means. The next sound above is a long crack, then a heavy fall somewhere beyond the stairwell. The door trembles in its frame. People move back, though there is no room. Your shoulder presses into someone else. No one apologizes. There is no space left for politeness. You understand now why people have avoided looking at it. The longer you stare, the more the door asks from you. It asks whether you will wait until the air is worse. It asks whether you will risk the heat before your body gives out. None of these questions belongs in ordinary life. The handle remains dark. The red line remains bright. The air remains hard to take in. You sit there with dust on your sleeve, cloth at your mouth, and the knowledge that the only exit has become part of the danger. Outside may kill you quickly. Inside may do it slowly. That is the shape of the room now. The door was supposed to be the way out. Now, its dark handle, red edges, and rising heat make everyone understand that outside may be worse than the room, slowly taking their breath. When the next sound comes from the stairwell, you know the door will have to open soon, not because anyone feels ready, but because the basement is running out of ways to wait. Only a small gap opens at first. No one pushes the door wide. The man nearest the stairs pulls it with a cloth wrapped around his hand, and the whole basement leans toward that narrow opening. For 1 second you expect air, real air. Air that has not been breathed again and again by everyone in the room. Air that can cool your throat and clear your eyes. But what comes in is heat. It hits before anyone can move. A dry, hard wave of it pushes through the gap and touches every face turned toward the door. Smoke follows, thicker than before. Not the thin smoke that had slipped under the frame, but a full breath from the burning city above. People pull back. Someone coughs at once. The child near the wall begins to cry, but the cry breaks into coughing. The door opens wider because staying inside has become almost impossible. That is the terrible part. No one opens it because they are brave. No one opens it because they believe the outside is safe. They open it because the basement has started to feel like a room running out of time. For a place everyone had waited to escape, the outside greets you like. It has been waiting to punish that hope. Before we leave the basement with you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you want more quiet history told through ordinary people, not just battles and dates. It helps this channel keep telling stories like this, where war is not only seen from above, but felt from inside a room, a street, and a frightened body trying to survive. You rise with the others, not fully standing at first, only unfolding yourself from the crowded floor. Your legs feel weak from sitting, heat, fear, and bad air. The bag near your feet is nearly forgotten. Someone steps on a strap. Someone pulls a child up. Someone else reaches under an older woman's arm. The room changes from waiting to movement, but no one knows where that movement is supposed to go. The first steps up the stairs are slow. People do not rush because rushing means falling. The stairwell is dim, smoky, and hot. Your hand touches the wall, then pulls away because the plaster feels warmer than it should. Dust sticks to your fingers. Someone ahead of you coughs and bends forward. Someone behind you says to keep moving, but the voice is weak. The whole line moves like one tired body. At the top, the world has changed colour. The street you knew is no longer dark in the normal way. It is red, orange, black, and grey all at once. Fire reflects on walls, broken windows, stones, and smoke hanging low across the road. The shapes are familiar for half a second, then wrong. A doorway is there, but not the doorway you remember. A shop front is open to the street, but not open like a shop. It is torn, bright inside, and burning. You try to breathe and regret it. The air outside is wider, but it is not cleaner. It carries heat, ash, and smoke. Your throat closes around it. Your eyes water so quickly that the street blurs. The basement had been too small, but this open street feels too large and too dangerous. You have escaped one trap and walked into another that has no walls. A street can be wide enough for a whole crowd and still offer no freedom when every direction seems to lead through heat. People come out behind you. Some stand still because the sight stops them. Others move without looking much, as if looking will make them understand too much. A woman holds a child and turns in a circle, searching for a direction that still means safety. The child's face is streaked with dust and tears. A man shields his eyes with one hand. Another keeps saying a name, not shouting, only repeating it as if the name might answer from somewhere in the smoke. You look for normal things. The corner, the wall, the steps. The sign is near the street. Your mind tries to rebuild the old map, but the fire keeps taking pieces away. The familiar street has become strange. Windows glow where rooms should be dark. Roof lines are broken. Sparks move through smoke. The ground under your shoes is coated in ash and grit. You are standing in the same place, but it no longer behaves like your place. This is the next betrayal of the night. The basement had promised safety and became a box. The door had promised air and brought heat. Now the street promises space, but space only shows you more danger. You are no longer trapped in a room, but you are not free. The danger has become wider, brighter, and harder to understand. What stays with you is the moment you realize freedom can look like a street and still feel like another locked room. Someone urges people away from the doorway. The heat near the building is too strong. You move because others move. Your feet find the pavement, then broken pieces of something you do not stop to identify. Smoke makes everyone seem half present. Faces appear, vanish, return, and turn away. You cannot tell who came from your basement and who came from another building. In this light, everyone looks like they have been made from the same dust. You glance back once. The basement entrance is behind you, dark at the bottom, red at the edges. It looks terrible, but almost safe now, simply because it is known. That is how quickly fear changes shape. A few minutes ago, you needed to get out. Now part of you wants the certainty of walls again, even bad walls, even warm walls, because the street offers too many choices and no clear answer. A loud crack comes from somewhere above. People flinch. A piece of burning material falls into the street ahead, and the crowd pulls back. Nobody needs instructions. Bodies understand heat faster than words. You turn with the others, then stop because the other direction is full of smoke. There is no straight path. There is only choosing the danger that looks slightly less immediate. You think of your room again, but the thought no longer has shape. The table, the cup, the coat on the chair, the drawer left open. They may be behind you. They may be gone. You do not know. The life you left only a short time ago already feels like something from another day. Around you, Dresden is not a city in any proper sense. It is walls, gaps, smoke, firelight, people calling names, people coughing, people holding one another upright. You understand nothing clearly except that Getting out of the basement did not end the night. It only moved you into the part of it that could be seen. The door opened, and everyone expected air. Instead, heat and smoke came first, and the familiar street outside looked less like home than a burning passage with no safe direction. As your eyes adjust to the red light, you begin to understand that leaving the basement has not saved you yet. It has only shown you how much of Dresden is still burning around you. You step farther into the street and try to make it familiar again. That is the first thing your mind does. It looks for the corner, the shop, the fence, the doorway, the line of windows you have passed so many times that you never needed to notice them. But the street does not answer in the old way. It gives you smoke, red light, broken shapes, and walls that seem to stand in the wrong places. You are close to home, or you think you are. That makes the confusion worse. If you had been thrown into a strange city, maybe your fear would be simpler, but this is your own street, the place where your feet should know what to do. You know where the pavement bends. You know where a sign used to hang. You know which doorway had a step that was slightly uneven. Now those small guides are gone, hidden, burned, or changed beyond use. The fire has taken away the simple signs people live by. A shopfront that once told you where you were is now a black opening with light inside it. A fence has disappeared into ash and broken posts. A corner wall is still there, but its surface is burned so dark that it no longer feels like the same wall. A sign hangs crooked, unreadable in the smoke. You stare at it anyway, hoping one letter might return the street to you. For a person who only wants to find the way home, it is a cruel thing when home refuses to look like itself. People move around you, but their movement does not help. Some go one way, some another. A woman calls a name into the smoke, then coughs before she can call again. A man turns in a full circle with a bundle under one arm. Someone points down the street, but the hand drops quickly because no one knows if that direction is safer. You stand still for a moment and feel ashamed of standing still, though moving without knowing where to go may be worse. The heat comes from more than one side. That makes direction difficult. Normally, you understand a street by its edges. Buildings on one side, buildings on the other hand. A road between them. Tonight, those edges do not guide you, they threaten you. Windows glow from inside, smoke rolls out of openings. Parts of the roofs crack above the street. The ground is covered with ash, glass, grit, and pieces of things you do not want to identify. You try to remember your own door. Not the idea of it, but the exact look. The handle, the frame, the small mark near the lower wood. You tell yourself it should be there if you can just find the right angle. But the smoke changes distance. Fire changes color. Dust changes every surface. You may be closer than you think, or farther. You may be looking directly at what is left of it and not know. A map can show streets as clean lines, but it cannot show what happens when smoke, fire, and fear erase the small signs a person uses to belong somewhere. Your body wants you to move away from heat. Your mind wants you to move toward memory. Those two needs begin pulling against each other. A safer direction may take you away from your room. The familiar direction may lead to smoke. You feel the old life above the something slipping from something real into something you have to prove. The table, the coat, the cup, the chair. They seem to exist only because you keep remembering them. A figure stands a few steps away, covered in ash. For a second, you cannot tell if it is someone from your building. The face is streaked, the hair pale with dust, the eyes red from smoke. They look past you, then past the wall behind you, searching for something that should have been obvious. You recognize that look because you feel it on your own face. It is the look of a person standing in a known place that has stopped being known. There is pain in that which has nothing to do with wounds. A city is not only destroyed when walls fall, it is destroyed again when the people inside it cannot read it anymore. The streets no longer tell them where they are. The corners no longer bring them comfort. The buildings no longer hold their old meanings. You are not only trying to survive fire, you are trying to survive the loss of every small clue that used to say, "This is where you live." What stays with you is not one grand ruin, but the smaller fear of standing near your own home and not being sure where your own home begins. Someone stumbles over broken stone and catches themselves on a wall. The wall leaves black dust on their hand. They stare at the hand for a second, as if the stain has surprised them more than the fall. Nearby, a child asks where they are. No one answers quickly. The question is too simple and too hard. Where are you? In Dresden. On your street. In front of a building. In the middle of a place that no longer gives enough proof. You take a few steps forward. The pavement feels uneven. Something crunches under your shoe. You do not look down for long. Looking down makes the street too real. Looking up makes it worse. A window frame burns without glass. A doorway opens into a room that has no proper front anymore. A curtain, or what is left of one, hangs black and stiff near a broken wall. These things should belong inside homes. Now they are exposed to the street, like private life has been torn open. You want one clear landmark, one shop sign, one gate, one corner, one voice you know. Instead, you get heat, smoke, ash, and shapes that almost make sense before the fire changes them again. This almost recognition hurts more than complete strangeness. It keeps promising you that the old street is still underneath, if only you can look hard enough. You begin to understand that getting out of the basement did not return you to Dresden. It returned you to what Dresden had become while you were underground. The city did not wait for you to see it change. It changed without your permission, above your head, while you sat in the dark listening to sounds without pictures. You step onto your own street and search for the signs that used to guide you without thought. But the shop fronts, corners, walls and doors have changed so much that being close to home no longer feels the same as finding it. While the fire keeps changing every familiar shape, you realize the next danger is not only choosing where to run, but choosing before the street disappears even further around you. You begin moving before you are sure where to go. That is how it happens. One moment you are standing in the red street, trying to recognize a banner, a doorway, a sign. The next moment, heat pushes at your face, smoke thickens behind you, and people nearby start moving faster. You follow because standing still has begun to feel like another way of giving up. There is no clear path. The street is open in front of you, but open does not mean safe. Firelight comes from one side, smoke rolls from another. Broken glass and ash cover the ground. You step over something dark without looking closely. Someone stumbles ahead, catches themselves, and keeps going. No one has enough time to check every direction. Every choice has to be made before it can be understood. You turn left because others turn left. Then the heat grows stronger there and the group slows. Someone says to go back. Someone else points across the street. A woman holds a child against her chest and follows whoever seems to move with purpose. You look face to face and realize most people are doing the same thing. They are not following a plan. They are following the movement. For a city full of streets, it is a miserable joke that none of them seems willing to become a way out. Your legs feel weak, but they keep working. The body has stopped asking for certainty. It only asks for the next step. Your throat burns when you breathe. Your eyes water so badly that you blink through half the street. The cloth at your mouth is damp and dirty. You press it there anyway. The air outside is wider than the basement, but it still hurts. Someone runs past you with a coat over their head. Another person moves slowly, bent forward, one hand against a wall. A man calls a name, turns, and then runs the other way. Every person seems to have a different reason to move, but the same fear under it. Find a child. Find a parent. Find air. Find a street that is not burning. Find anything that feels less wrong than staying here. You pass a wall that used to belong to a shop. Its front is broken open, and the shelves inside are lit by fire from somewhere you cannot see. You remember buying something there once, something small and ordinary, but the memory is useless now. The place has no old meaning left. It is only heat, splintered wood, and a shape you move past because stopping would be foolish. A person used to clear signs and safe roads might think running means knowing where safety is, but here running only means the place behind you has become worse. The crowd changes direction again. It does not turn cleanly. It folds, hesitates, presses and breaks apart. People look over shoulders. Some push forward. Some stop too suddenly. You nearly hit the back of a man in front of you. He looks at you with wide red eyes, then looks away as if he has no room left inside him for apology. A loud crack comes from above, and everyone nearby ducks. A piece of burning wood falls into the street several steps ahead. The people at the front pull back, and the whole group reacts late, like one body with too many frightened minds inside it. You move sideways because the person beside you moves sideways. Your shoulder hits a wall. Heat comes through your coat. You pull away. There is no time to think about the whole war. No time to think about guilt, blame, cities, armies, or speeches. Those things belong to another height far above the smoke. Down here, the world has become immediate. Breathe. Step. Turn. Avoid the heat. Do not lose the people nearest you. Do not fall. Do not choose a street that ends in fire. A woman near you drops a bundle. She stops, looks down, then leaves it. The decision takes less than 2 seconds, but you see the pain on her face. Whatever was inside mattered before this street. Now it cannot matter enough. She grabs the child beside her and keeps moving. The bundle stays in the ash, already becoming part of the ground. What stays with you is how survival strips people down, until even the things they carried from home must be abandoned to keep the body moving. You want to know if you are going the right way. The need for certainty is almost painful. You look for anyone who seems calmer, older, more informed. There is no one. People with grey hair look as lost as children. Men who spoke firmly in the basement now turn their heads like everyone else. The street has made all of you equal in the worst way. Nobody knows enough. You reach an opening where 2 streets meet. For a moment, the space should feel easier. It does not. One side is blocked by smoke. Another glows too brightly. The third has people moving through it, so you follow them. Not because it is safe, because movement is the only answer left that the body understands. Your feet hurt. Your lungs hurt more. You feel grit inside your mouth. You feel your heart beating too fast, then faster when the crowd slows again. You are afraid of choosing wrong, but the night gives you no pause to choose well. A wrong turn may mean smoke. A right turn may become wrong before you reach the end of it. The city is changing while you move through it. Behind you, someone screams, then the sound is swallowed by coughing and crackling wood. You do not turn fully. Part of you hates that. Part of you knows turning might make you stop. This is what the fire does to people. It makes decency compete with breath, and breath often wins because the body is afraid to die. You run through your own city without knowing which street still leads anywhere. Left, right, back, forward. Every choice feels half blind, and every face around you keeps turning in search of someone else who might know it better. By the time the crowd pulls you toward a wider space, you understand that following people does not mean anyone is leading, and the next mistake may belong to all of you at once. The wider place appears because the crowd pulls that way. It may be a square, or the opening where several streets meet. In normal life, this kind of space would help. It would give you room to stop, look around, choose a direction, and breathe without another shoulder against yours. Tonight, the open space does not feel like relief. It feels like being placed where the fire can see you from every side. People spread out a little, not because they are calm, but because there is more ground under their feet. For one moment, bodies are not pressed as tightly together. Then the space shows its other meaning. Without the narrow street around you, there is nothing to hide behind. The red light reaches across the square. Smoke moves low. Small figures stand in it, turning their heads, suddenly easier to see and easier to lose. The buildings around the square no longer give comfort. They stand like broken edges around heat. Windows glow, doorways breathe smoke. A sign hangs loose from a wall, but nobody reads it. The ground is covered in ash, brick, glass, wood, and burned pieces you do not want to name. You want this place to help you understand the city. Instead, it shows how much the city has stopped making sense. For a place that used to make walking easier, the square now does a fine job of making every frightened person look smaller. You look for the safest side. One street ahead is filled with smoke. Another is brighter than it should be. A third has people moving through it, but they keep stopping and turning back. The wide space gives you more choices, but not better ones. That is what begins to frighten you. A narrow street can trap you. A square can frighten you because it offers too many wrong directions at once. Someone calls for people to keep moving. Someone else says not that way. A woman with ash in her hair points toward a darker street, then lowers her hand when a glow appears beyond it. A man tries to lead two children across the open ground, but halfway through, he stops and looks left, then right, as if the square has taken the map out of his head. You understand him. The city is not guiding anyone now. Your body wants to crouch, but there is no wall close enough. In the basement, fear had been crowded and low. In the street, fear had pushed you forward. Here, fear spreads out. It comes from heat on one side, smoke on another, falling sounds above, and open ground under your feet. You feel exposed because there is too much space around you and not enough safety inside it. A large open place can feel safe in ordinary life, but under fire, it can make a person feel set down in the middle of every danger at once. You see people standing still in the red light. They are covered in ash, their coats hanging loose, their faces pale under dirt. One person holds a bag but no longer seems to know why. Another keeps turning in slow half circles, searching for a landmark that no longer works. They do not look heroic. They look tired, like they walked out of one room and found a city that no longer kept its promises. The square used to belong to normal movement. People crossed it to reach shops, streets, homes, errands, and ordinary days. Now those old purposes are gone. The same stones are under your shoes, but they no longer lead naturally anywhere. This is what fire has done. It has not only burned buildings, it has changed the use of places. A door is no longer just an exit. A street is no longer just a route. An open square is no longer a place to breathe. You hear a crash from one side, and several people flinch toward the middle. Then heat pushes them back toward the edges. The movement has no order. People are trying to read danger by instinct, but danger keeps changing its shape. You step one way, then stop. Someone brushes past you and nearly falls. You touch their sleeve, help them stay upright. Then both of you move on without speaking. What stays with you is the loneliness of that open space, because even surrounded by people, each person has to choose a direction with their own frightened body. A child cries near the edge of the square. The sound is thin from the smoke. An older woman sits on a low stone and stares at the ground, as if resting for even a moment is worth the risk. A man tries to lift her, but she shakes her head. You want to look away, then you do, because the crowd is moving and your feet have started following again. The shame follows too, but it has no time to grow properly. You choose the street with the least fire in it. That is not the same as choosing safety. It only means the danger there is harder to see. You move because staying in the square has become unbearable. The wide place that should have given air has only shown how alone a person can feel when every road looks wrong. The open square should have given you room to breathe. Instead, the red light, smoke, and broken streets make every person look exposed, small, and unsure of where to turn. As the crowd begins moving again, you follow because standing in the wide space has become its own kind of danger, and soon you will learn that a crowd can look like a guide without knowing the way at all. People start moving again, and you move with them because standing still in that red square has become impossible. They push toward a narrower street where the light seems less fierce, and the smoke looks thinner for a few seconds. A few people choose a direction, and the rest follow because any direction chosen by more than one person begins to make sense. At first, the crowd gives comfort. Not real comfort, but the thin kind that frightened people accept without arguing. If so many people are going this way, then maybe this way still leads somewhere. If mothers with children are moving, if older men are still walking, if others are not turning back at once, then maybe there is still a chance ahead. Your legs follow that hope before your mind can test it. Bodies close in again, shoulders brush, sleeves catch on each other. Someone's bag bumps against your hip. A child cries from somewhere behind you, then the sound disappears under coughing and hurried steps. Everyone is moving fast, but not well. It is not the clean movement of people who know where they are going. It is the movement of people who are afraid to be the last one left exposed. For a few desperate minutes, a crowd can imitate wisdom simply by being larger than one frightened person standing alone. You keep your eyes on the back of the man in front of you. His coat is streaked with ash. He turns his head once, then forward again, as if he is checking whether he still believes in the direction he chose. The woman beside him holds a child against her chest and walks with short, quick steps. Her eyes are not on the street ahead. They are on her shoulders in front of her. That is when you begin to understand what this movement really is. No one is following a leader. Everyone is following the nearest back. The realization comes quietly, but it changes the whole street. The crowd had looked like an answer from a distance. Up close, it is only fear lined up in a row. Each person is reading the person ahead of them and borrowing that movement for one more second. One knows which street is clear. No one knows which corner is blocked. No one knows where the fire will spread next. The crowd is not carrying knowledge. It is carrying momentum. That makes every step feel lonelier. You still move with the others because the fire behind you is real, the smoke is real, and the need to keep going is real. But the comfort has changed. It is thinner now. You no longer feel guided, you feel surrounded by people making the same guess at the same time. If the first people turn wrong, the rest of you may turn wrong with them. If they stop too late, you may stop too late as well. The crowd can protect you from being alone, but it cannot protect you from being mistaken. A train station, a bus stop, or a busy crossing in modern life can teach you to trust the flow of people. But here the flow is only panic trying to wear the shape of direction. The street narrows again, and the pressure of bodies becomes stronger. Someone behind you urges everyone forward. Someone ahead slows suddenly, and the line compresses. Your shoulder hits another shoulder. A hand catches your sleeve, then lets go. For one tense moment, the whole group threatens to stop, and stopping feels more frightening than moving. Then the front begins again, and the rest of you follow with the small relief that movement, even blind movement, feels better than being trapped in a knot of bodies. You try to look past the people ahead. Smoke blurs the view. Heat shifts across the street in uneven waves. One side glows brighter than the other, so the crowd leans away from that side. A man near the front points left. No one asks why. They turn because pointing is enough when no better reason exists. A few people hesitate, but hesitation has no place in a moving crowd. They are swept along anyway. This is the human part of it. Nobody in that line wants to surrender their mind, yet fear keeps shortening every decision. You do not have time to weigh the options carefully. You only have time to notice which direction seems less bad than the one before. In a calmer hour, you might have judged the street for yourself. Tonight, you judge through other people because the body wants the burden shared, even if the choice is still yours in the end. A boy stumbles near the curb, and the woman behind him pushes him upright without even looking at his face. The gesture is almost rough, but it keeps him moving. That is what kindness becomes in a fire. Not soft words, not careful manners, just enough force to keep another body from falling under the feet of the rest. What stays with you is how a crowd can make you feel less alone and more alone at the same time. Because everyone is near you, but nobody can decide your safety for you. The line bends again. Someone at the front must have seen something, because several people pulled to the right. Those behind them do the same, though many have not seen anything at all. You follow because the choice is already happening around you. You are not proud of that. You are not ashamed of it either. The night has become too harsh for those feelings to sit properly. You only know that each borrowed decision carries you one street farther from the square and no closer to certainty. A man suddenly stops and turns halfway around, looking as frightened as everyone else. For 1 second, the whole idea of the crowd breaks open. You see it plainly then. The people in front are not guides. They are only the people who happen to be in front. Their fear is the same as yours. Their knowledge is no better. Their backs looked convincing only because someone had to be first. You feel almost foolish for trusting the line, yet you keep moving with it because the alternative is worse. That is the trap. The crowd is not reliable, but it is still easier to follow than to stand alone and invent a direction under falling fire. So you stay inside it, even after understanding its weakness. Many of the others probably understand it too. That may be why some faces look more frightened now than before. They are not only afraid of the city, they are afraid of the people they are depending on. A burst of sparks lifts somewhere ahead, and the crowd shrinks inward as if one body has flinched. The movement passes through everyone at once. No command, no plan, only shared instinct. You realize then that the crowd has one true language, and it is not courage or judgment. It is a reaction. You run with the crowd because motion feels safer than being left behind. Then you see the truth in every face ahead of you. Each person is only watching the back in front, hoping that borrowed movement will lead somewhere survivable. When the line bends again without certainty, you understand that the next danger is not only the burning street around you, but the terrible fact that a crowd can look like guidance while being just as lost as you are. The shouting begins to fade, not because the street is safer, but because people have used too much of themselves. Earlier, every sound made bodies jump. Every burst of heat made people turn. Every blocked street made someone call out, point, cough, or cry. Now the noise is still there, but it reaches you differently. It feels farther away, as if your own mind has put cloth between you and the world. You keep moving, but not with the same sharp fear as before. Your feet follow the broken street. Your eyes stay open. Your hand keeps the cloth near your mouth. You still notice fire, smoke, falling sounds, and people passing close beside you. But something inside has slowed. Fear does not disappear. It becomes duller, heavier, and harder to lift. Around you, others have changed too. They walk with bags in their hands, children against their coats, ash in their hair, and eyes that do not settle on anything. A man turns his head toward a crash, then turns back without speaking. A woman holds a small coat against her chest, though there is no child inside it. She looks ahead, but her face does not seem to find the street. For a night built from terror, it is almost cruel how the body eventually runs out of the strength to look properly afraid. You pass people standing in the open as if they have forgotten why they stopped. One man holds a bundle under his arm and stares at a burning doorway. Another sits on a low piece of stone with one hand over his mouth, not coughing, only holding it there. A child clings to a sleeve and watches adults for instructions that no one is giving clearly anymore. This is not calm. Calm has order in it. This is something else. It is the moment after too much panic, when the mind cannot keep reacting at full force. People still understand danger, but slowly. They hear a crack from above and move late. They see sparks and step aside without the same rush. They are alive, but the fact of being alive has not reached their faces yet. You understand it because it is happening to you too. Your chest still hurts from the smoke. Your legs ache from moving without rest. Your throat is raw. Your eyes sting. But these feelings arrive as if they belong to someone slightly beside you. A short time ago, every breath felt urgent. Now even pain feels tired. A person watching from a safe room might expect survivors to look grateful at once, but survival can leave the face empty before it leaves room for thanks. The street ahead opens a little, and no one seems sure whether to take it. A few people continue. Others pause and look back. No one gives a strong direction. The crowd has lost the force it had earlier. It breaks into smaller groups, then into pairs, then into people moving almost alone while still close to one another. The fire still lights everything, but the human noise has thinned. You see the woman with the small coat again. It is dark, child-sized, covered in ash. She holds it with both hands, pressed to her body. Her mouth is slightly open. Her eyes are wide, but they do not focus on anyone. She does not call a name. She does not ask for help. She only stands there as people pass around her, as if part of her has stayed somewhere the rest of her cannot return to. The sight stops you for a second, not fully. Only enough for your steps to slow. You want to know whether the coat belongs to someone. You also do not want to know. That is another ugly thing the night teaches. Some questions become too heavy for strangers to carry, even when the answer is standing in front of them. What stays with you is not the loudest grief, but the quiet face of someone holding a small coat, as if their hands remember something the mind cannot yet touch. You move on because the smoke keeps moving too. The fire does not wait for people to understand their losses. It keeps burning while they stare, cough, turn, and walk. The city gives no proper time for grief, no clear place to sit, no clean water, no safe corner where a person can finally let the meaning arrive. Everything has to happen while feet keep searching for a way through ash. This is where the night becomes heavier than panic. Panic at least has movement in it. It pushes people, frightens them, makes them choose. This emptiness is slower. It follows the body after the first rush has passed. It makes a person walk through burning streets with the face of someone still waiting to wake up. You pass another doorway, another wall, another window glowing red from inside. These things should shock you more. Earlier, they would have. Now your mind only records them. Door, wall, fire, smoke, person sitting, coughing, child carried, coat held too tightly. The words arrive plain and dull, because anything more would hurt too much. There is no clean line between living through something and understanding it. You are alive in the street, but understanding will come later, if it comes at all. For now, the body is doing the work. Step over the stone, keep the cloth up, stay away from the hotter wall, follow the darker side, do not fall, do not stop too long. The people around you are doing the same. They are not thinking like historians. They are not making sense of the night. They are simply passing through it with whatever part of themselves still answers. Some carry children, some carry bags, some carry nothing. Some carry an expression so blank that it feels more frightening than tears. The shouting fades because people have spent too much fear. You see survivors walking through red light and ash with open eyes, but many of those eyes no longer seem able to recognize what they have survived. By the time the street grows quieter around you, the next thing that hurts is not another wall of flame, but one small object left untouched in the ruins, still shaped like ordinary life. A small white cup sits on a step, and for a moment it hurts more than the burning house behind it. The walls are black, the windows are gone. The doorway is open to a room that no longer looks like a room, but the cup is still there, upright on the edge of the step, covered with a thin layer of ash, as if someone placed it down only a few minutes ago. You stop looking at the flames first. That surprises you. The large ruin is too much for the mind to hold, so your eyes choose the smaller thing. The cup has a handle. It has a pale rim. It has not cracked, at least not from where you stand. In the middle of smoke, broken beams and red light, that small ordinary object looks almost rude in its calmness. People move past it without stopping. Some do not see it. Some see it and look away. You understand why. A collapsed roof tells you a house is gone. A burned wall tells you the city has been hit. But a cup tells you someone lived here this evening. Someone drank from it. Someone left it near the door. Someone expected it to remain part of tomorrow. For all the fire around you, the cruelest witness may be a clean little cup that still behaves as if the world is ordinary. You step closer without meaning to. Ash shifts under your shoe. The heat from the house pushes against your face, but the cup keeps your attention. It belongs to a kitchen, a table, a hand, a morning habit. It should be near bread, water, tea, or a tired person standing in a doorway. It should not be sitting in front of a burned shell while strangers pass through the smoke. Nearby, a single shoe lies on its side. Further along, a piece of curtain hangs from a broken window frame. It is stiff, blackened at the edge, and moving only because hot air pushes through the opening. A child's small cart rests near the wall, one wheel bent. A handkerchief is caught under a stone. These things are not large, but they make the street harder to bear. The night has already shown you flames, smoke, crowds, and broken buildings. Those were frightening, but they were almost too large. The small things arrive differently. They do not shout. They wait. They make you imagine the people who owned them. The shoe had a foot. The curtain had a room behind it. The cart had a child. The handkerchief had a pocket. The cup had a mouth that lifted it. A photograph of a ruined city may show destruction, but one object left behind can make you feel the missing person more sharply than the whole street. You think of your own room again. The cup on your table. The coat on the chair. The drawer was left open. You had been afraid they were gone, but now another fear comes with it. Maybe something of yours has survived in the same wrong way. Maybe the room is ruined, but one object remains, waiting without understanding that the life around it has ended. That thought is almost worse than losing everything at once. A woman near the doorway bends down and picks up something from the ash. Not the cup, a smaller thing, maybe a button or a spoon. She looks at it in her palm, then closes her fingers around it. Her face is blank. She does not cry. She only holds it as if the small object can prove that the house was not always this shape. You do not know if it is hers. You do not ask. There is no proper time for mourning in the street. People keep moving because the fire is still near. Smoke still stings the eyes. Somewhere ahead, someone coughs badly. A wall cracks in the distance, yet the cup remains on the step, still and pale, while everything else demands movement. That is why it stays in your mind. It does not chase you. It only waits for you to understand it. What stays with you is how a small object can survive the night almost politely, while the person who used it may already be beyond finding. You look at the house behind the cup and try to picture it before this. A door that opened normally, a room with furniture. A hand is setting the cup down. Someone was thinking there would be time to return. Ordinary life always leaves things unfinished because ordinary life expects another hour. War enters that unfinished hour and makes every object look abandoned in the middle of a sentence. The street is full of such sentences now. A bag was left near a wall, a scarf in ash, a broken chair leg outside a doorway, a piece of paper stuck to a wet stone. None of them explains themselves. They only make the city personal again. Dresden is not only fire in the sky or smoke over roofs, it is also small belongings separated from the hands that once knew them. You move on because you have to. The cup stays behind. For several steps, you still see it in your mind more clearly than the burning house. That feels strange, but true. Large destruction makes you afraid. Small survival makes you sad. The house behind the step is burned open, but the cup remains where a human hand once left it. After so much fire, it is the small things, the shoe, the curtain, the cart, the handkerchief, that make the loss feel private again. As you leave the cup behind, you carry its stillness with you, and the next question is whether surviving this street means being saved or being forced to keep seeing what others no longer can. The night keeps going, and that becomes its own kind of burden. Earlier, survival felt simple in the harshest possible way. Breathe, move, avoid the hottest street, stay away from falling wood. Keep following whatever path looks less deadly than the one behind you. Now your body is still doing those things, but your mind has started to change. It no longer reacts sharply to every sight. Instead, it drifts through them, slower and emptier, as if it has grown tired of understanding. This is the part no one would call rescue. You are alive, But being alive now means continuing past things that already feel too heavy to carry. The people who did not survive no longer have to see the next doorway, the next broken room, the next body, the next face staring without focus. You do. That is what begins to make survival feel complicated. The street does not congratulate you for lasting another minute. It only shows you more of what the night has done. For all the talk people use later about survival, there are moments when surviving feels less like a gift and more like being kept awake inside the damage. You keep walking because your Jill answer. That may be the simplest truth. Left, for foot goes forward, then the other. Smoke still passes through the street. Ash still lies exposed. Heat still reaches out from openings in walls. Yet your mind keeps slipping away from the meaning of these things. A man sits at the side of the road with both hands blackened from soot. He is not hiding. He is not calling for help. He is only staring at a patch of fire burning lower than before, as if the last of his thoughts are sitting in it. You look at him and understand something you did not want to learn. A person does not have to be wounded to look broken. Enough smoke, enough fear, enough decisions made in blindness, and the inside of a person can begin to slow down before the body stops moving. He may stand again in a minute. He may follow others when they pass. But for this moment, he looks like a man who has already gone farther inward than the street can reach. A modern hospital corridor might hold shock, but at least it offers walls or order, and someone whose job is to tell you what happens next. This street offers none of that mercy. You move on because staying beside him will not cool the air or quiet the fires. That thought leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. It feels wrong to keep walking past people who look empty, yet the night keeps teaching the same lesson. You cannot stop for every loss without becoming part of the stillness yourself. So you keep moving, and the guilt of it walks beside you as faithfully as your own shadow, though the firelight makes even shadows look strange. There are fewer loud cries now. Coughing remains. The crack of damaged wood remains. Distant bursts of flame still lift and settle. But the people are quieter. Some have no more voice left. Some have no more need to use it. One woman kneels beside a wall, holding a bundle in her lap and staring at nothing. A boy stands near her, not speaking, his face grey with ash, waiting for instructions that never come. You pass them and feel the terrible difference between seeing and helping. Seeing is easy. Helping requires strength, direction and time, and the night has made all three scarce. I think that is one of the coldest parts of the night, the way it leaves decent people measuring their own humanity against what their exhausted bodies can still manage. You keep breathing, though each breath feels flatter than before. The will to survive is still there, but it has changed shape. Earlier, it was quick and fierce. Now it is dull and stubborn. It keeps you walking past the dead, the shocked, the sitting, the calling, the staring. That is why survival begins to feel almost unfair. The living must continue through scenes the dead no longer have to endure. The reward for still being here is more smoke, more ash, and more memory. A corner of the street opens to a darker stretch, and you take it because there is nothing else to do. Your body still chooses the less terrible direction, even while your mind drifts. You pass another doorway and do not look inside. You hear a soft sound behind you and do not turn. That frightens you later, but not now. Now all your strength is spent on the next few steps. The night is no longer asking you only to survive it. It is beginning to ask you to remember it. The longer the night lasts, the less survival feels like a simple victory, because every step forward forces you to see one more thing the dead have been spared. Around you, people still breathe, walk, sit, and carry what they can. But many of them already look like the inside of life has retreated somewhere your hands cannot reach. Soon, you follow the darker street ahead, and the next danger is no longer only fire or smoke, but the quiet fear that this night will keep living inside you for years. Morning begins without comfort. It does not arrive with birds, clear air, or the feeling that a bad night is finally over. It comes slowly through smoke and ash, turning the red of the fire into a weak grey light. For a moment you think that might help. Darkness had hidden too much. Smoke had made every street uncertain. The night had forced people to move through shapes they could not trust. Part of you wants to believe that light will return order. It does not. As the sky grows paler, more of Dresden becomes visible, and that is exactly what makes the morning harder. In the night, fire had hidden things inside brightness. Smoke had hidden things inside the darkness. Now both of them step back just enough for the damage to show its full outline. Walls are still standing where rooms are gone. Roofs are missing. Window frames are black and empty. Streets are not only covered in ash, but broken in ways you could not see before. You stop without meaning to. A place that looked uncertain in the dark now looks unmistakably ruined. A row of houses appears through the thinning smoke, and you can count the gaps between them. One doorway still stands. Behind it does not. A stairway rises, but leads into open air. A wall remains upright, but nothing leans against it anymore. The morning does not explain anything. It only removes the last cover. Morning is supposed to make things easier, which was a very poor joke on a street like this. People around you slow down too. The movement of the night had been driven by heat, panic, and the need to get through the next few minutes. Daylight changes the pace. It does not make people safer, but it forces them to see more clearly where they are standing. A man turns toward a building and stays looking at it too long. A woman keeps walking, then stops, then walks back 3 steps because something in the light has caught her attention. A child asks a question, but the adult holding their hand does not answer. What hurts now is not only what is burning, it is what has already burned and stopped. In the dark, a destroyed house can still seem half alive because the fire moves inside it. In daylight, the same house becomes a fact. Black beams, open rooms, no curtains, no roof, no doubt. The city has lost more than the night allowed you to understand. You begin to notice absences. That is a different kind of pain. Not only broken things, but missing things. A building that should be there and is not. A familiar line of homes interrupted by empty air. A corner that should have a shop, now only rubble and smoke. People standing in places where they seem to be looking for someone who has not appeared by morning. Fire can frighten you quickly. Absence works more slowly. A power cut in a modern street can feel unsettling for an hour, but this grey light shows that a whole neighbourhood has lost its shape, and shape is what people live by. The sky is pale now, not clean blue, only washed and tired above the smoke. That pale sky makes the black edges of the ruined houses stand out more sharply. You can see the skeletons of buildings. You can see chimneys rising where rooms are gone. You can see window openings without glass, dark and empty, like eyes that have stopped looking back. In the night, the city had felt like a trap. In the morning, it feels like evidence. You keep walking because there is nothing else to do, but your steps are slower. The body is still carrying you, yet the mind keeps stopping. There is too much to look at. A street you crossed in panic now reveals details you missed. A cut on its side. A mattress is partly exposed near a broken wall. Bricks scattered where a doorway should be. A person calling a name into open space, not because they expect an answer, but because silence has become harder to accept. The daylight also makes the people easier to see, and that is no comfort. In the night, everyone had been red, grey, and half hidden by smoke. Now faces emerge more plainly. Soot on the skin, hair turned pale with dust, eyes red from smoke and sleeplessness, mouths dry, clothes hanging strangely after hours of heat, ash, and movement. Some people are still searching. Others have already stopped searching and simply stand there, as if the morning has taken the last reason to hurry. It is a strange cruelty. You thought light might rescue meaning from the night. Instead, it shows how much meaning the night has already destroyed. Streets do not point clearly home. Buildings do not hold their usual purpose. Even survival feels altered, because surviving into daylight means carrying the full picture instead of only fragments. What stays with you is the shock of realizing that darkness was not the only thing making the city hard to bear. It was also hiding how much had already been taken away. You pass a building frame that still stands, black against the pale morning. Through it, you can see farther than you should be able to, because walls that once block the view are gone. That sight unsettles you more than another burst of flame. Homes are not supposed to become transparent. Streets are not supposed to open through what used to be private rooms. Daylight makes these violations plain. The missing people become clearer too. In the night, everyone had seemed mixed together in smoke and movement. By morning, you begin to see who is still looking and who is no longer there to look. Some names have been called enough times. Some doorways remain empty too long. Some faces carry the blankness of people already counting who have not come through the light with them. It is hard not to feel that this is the hour when the night stops being a series of dangers and becomes a lasting wound. Fire and smoke had forced the body to react. Daylight forces the mind to record. That may be why the morning hurts more quietly, but more deeply. It leaves fewer places for fear to hide. It gives shape to loss. You look once more at the grey sky over the black outlines of Dresden and understand that light has not rescued the city from the night. It has only made the truth easier to see. The ruined walls, the missing roofs, the interrupted streets. The people have not yet found the spaces where ordinary life should still be standing. The dawn has done nothing kind. It has only made the damage legible. You thought morning might soften the fear by replacing smoke and shadow with something clearer. Instead, the grey light exposes broken streets, burned frames, missing people, and empty spaces that the night had only partly concealed. By the time you keep walking through the pale ash of morning, the next pain is no longer the shock of fire, but the quieter question of what is left for a survivor to return to. You survive the night, but morning does not give you a clear place to stand. That is the first thing you understand. During the bombing, the question had been simple in a brutal way. Can you breathe? Can you move? Can you get out of the basement? Can you cross the street without walking into fire? Now your body is still alive, but the question has changed. What are you supposed to return to? You walk through the grey morning with ash on your coat and grit in your mouth. The city around you no longer feels like a place waiting for people to go home. It feels like a place asking people to prove that home still exists. Some buildings stand only as black frames. Some streets are blocked by rubble. Some doorways open into nothing. You look for your old direction, but the old direction has lost its meaning. The fear is slower now. It does not strike like a bomb. It stays beside you as you move. Maybe your room is gone. Maybe someone you know has not come out. Maybe the street you used every day can no longer be followed. These thoughts do not arrive one at a time. They crowd together, quiet and heavy, until surviving begins to feel like the start of another kind of danger. For a night that spent hours trying to kill you, it is almost cruel that living through it only gives you a longer list of things to fear. You reach the place where you think your building should be. For a moment you are not sure. The wall is wrong, the entrance is wrong, the line of the roof is gone. You step closer, trying to match what stands in front of you with what your memory insists should be there. Memory says stairs. Memory says door. Memory says a coat on a chair and a cup on a table. Morning says black stone, ash, broken wood, and heat still rising from the remains. Your hand finds something in the rubble before your mind understands why you bent down. It is small, maybe a button, a piece of metal, a handle from a drawer, something that once belonged to an ordinary room. You hold it in your palm and stare at it. It is not enough to save anything. There is no proof that the room survived. It is only a small object that did not know how to burn completely. Other people are doing the same nearby. A woman searches with both hands through grey dust, lifting pieces and setting them down again. A man stands before a blackened doorway and does not enter. Someone calls a name once, then again, but each time the voice is weaker. Morning has made the work more exact. During the night, people ran from danger. Now they have to look for what the danger left behind. A person can survive a fire and still feel homeless while standing only a few steps from where their own door used to be. You try to imagine sleeping again in this city, and the thought feels impossible. Where would you sleep? Who would you sleep near? What sound would not wake you? The basement is behind you, but the feeling of it is still in your chest. The hot door, the bad air, the red light, the crowd. Even if someone gives you a blanket and a place to sit, the night will not leave just because morning has arrived. This is when survival becomes larger than the body. It is not only walking away from flames. It is standing in the daylight and understanding that the life before the siren may not be waiting anywhere. The rooms, the people, the habits, the small routes through the city, all of them may need to be found again, or mourned, or replaced with something poorer and colder. You look at the object in your hand. It should mean nothing. It is too small for that, but you keep holding it because it gives your fingers something to do. Maybe that is how people begin after a disaster. Not with brave speeches, not with clear plans, but with one dirty hand holding one useless thing pulled from the ash. What stays with you is the way a ruined home can leave behind just enough to make you remember everything, and not enough to bring any of it back. The street is quieter now, but not peaceful. Cool people move slowly through the remains, each carrying their own search. Some look for relatives, some look for shelter, some look for water, some look for anything that can still be used. Nobody has enough answers. The war has not stopped being enormous, but for you, it has narrowed into the question of the next hour. Where to go, who buffed, what to carry, how to keep standing. You understand that Dresden has not only lost buildings, it has lost the easy shape of daily life. A street no longer leads naturally to a shop. A door no longer leads naturally to a room. A morning no longer leads naturally to breakfast, work, errands, or rest. Everything ordinary now has to be rebuilt from uncertainty. That is the longer fear waiting after the fire. You put the small object into your pocket, though you do not know why. Maybe because leaving it there feels like losing the room twice. Maybe because your hand cannot hold grief all day, but a pocket can hold a piece of metal. You step back from the burned place and look at it once more. You are alive. That is true. But the place that was supposed to receive your life has changed beyond recognition. You survived the night, but morning gives you a different fear. The fire has passed through rooms, streets, names, and habits, leaving you with a body that still breathes and a home that may no longer know how to be home. Standing with one small object from the ashes in your hand, you begin to understand that Dresden will keep burning in memory long after the last flame goes out. The fire does not end when the last visible flame becomes smaller. That is what you begin to understand while sitting among the ash. The street is quieter now. Smoke still hangs in the air, but the night has lost its first violence. People move more slowly. Some stand near ruins, some sit where they can. Some stare at places that used to have doors, rooms, and names. You sit with grey dust on your hands and look toward what may have been your home. There is no clear thought at first, only pieces. The basement, the hot door, the red light under it, the first breath outside, the street that did not look like your street, the cup on the step. The morning showed more than you wanted to see. These things do not arrange themselves into a story. They simply remain. Before we go deeper into what survives inside you after the fire, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you want more quiet history, told through ordinary people, not only generals, battles, and dates. It helps this channel keep telling stories where war is felt in a room, a street, a breath, and a memory that refuses to leave. For a city that has stopped burning in front of your eyes, Dresden still does a cruel job of burning behind them. You rub your fingers together, and ash falls from your skin. It should be a small thing. Dust on hands can be washed away. Smoke can leave clothes. Hair can be cleaned. But the memory of what the dust means is harder to remove. It came from walls, floors, roofs, furniture, papers, curtains, and rooms that belonged to people. You are not only covered in dirt, you are covered in pieces of a city that used to hold ordinary life. The people around you are quiet in different ways. One man sits on a broken stone with his elbows on his knees. A woman stands with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Though the morning is not the coldest thing near her, someone holds a child and looks down the street as if still waiting for another person to appear from the smoke. No one looks fully present. Everyone seems partly here and partly inside the night. You understand that the planes may leave before the mind knows how to stop hearing them. A distant sound makes someone flinch. A crack from a damaged wall turns several heads at once. The body keeps listening for the next blast even when the sky has changed. Fear does not obey the clock. It stays in the muscles, in the throat, in the way your eyes keep checking doorways and windows. A person can walk out of danger and still carry the room where they nearly could not breathe. You try to remember the evening before the siren, but it is already difficult to remember clearly. The plate on the table, the coat on the chair, the half-finished room. Those memories are still there, but the basement stands between you and them now. Whenever you try to think of home, the hot door returns. Whenever you try to think of the street, the red light returns. Memory has begun mixing ordinary things with terror, and you cannot separate them by wanting to. This is how the city keeps burning. Not in one flame, not in one street, not in one house. It burns again each time you close your eyes and see the basement light shaking. It burns again when you remember the cough of a child. It burns again when a closed door looks too much like the one everyone feared to touch. It burns again when silence feels suspicious, because silence came before the next danger. A woman nearby wipes ash from her sleeve with a slow hand. She does it again and again, though the sleeve does not become clean. The movement looks less like cleaning than trying to return to a habit from before. That is what people do when the mind cannot carry the whole disaster. They choose one small task: wipe the sleeve, fold the cloth, hold the bag, touch the pocket where a small object from the rubble has been placed. What stays with you is not only the fire itself, but the ordinary movements people make afterward, as if the body is searching for a life that has just been taken out of reach. You do not know yet how often this night will return. Maybe it will come back in dreams. Maybe it will come back through smoke from a stove, through the sound of aircraft, through the sight of a red sky at sunset, through the smell of dust in a closed room. Maybe years later, a door handle warmed by sunlight will make your hand stop before touching it. That is how memory works after terror. It hides inside things that used to be harmless. The war outside may continue with armies, borders, orders, and reports. But inside you, the war has taken a smaller and more stubborn form. It is a basement without air. It is a street that no longer knows its own shape. It is a morning that did not comfort anyone. It is the question of who came out, who did not, and what kind of life can be built around that knowledge. You look again toward the ruins and feel no clean ending. The night has passed, but it has not left. The people sitting in the ash are not finished with it. Their bodies survived one night. Their memories may have to survive it many times. Dresden not only burned in the streets, rooms, roofs, and stairwells. It kept burning in the people who remembered the basement air, the hot door, the red street, and the grey morning that showed them what was gone. Soon, the hardest part will not be remembering the suffering, but finding a way to speak of it without pretending the war around Dresden was simple, innocent, or easy to judge. You stand among people covered in ash, and there is no simple way to look at them. That is what makes the morning heavy. Behind you are black walls, burned rooms, broken streets, and smoke still rising into the grey air. Around you are old people, children, women holding bags, men with blank faces, and strangers who look as if they have been pulled out of the same dark place. They are not symbols while you stand beside them. They are cold, dirty, thirsty, frightened people who have just come through the night. But Dresden is not separate from the war that brought fire over it. That has to remain true. This is a city inside Nazi Germany. The regime ruling it has invaded, occupied, deported, murdered, and dragged Europe through years of ruin. The war did not appear from nowhere. The suffering around you does not erase the suffering Germany has caused elsewhere. The ash on these coats cannot be used to wash the guilt from the state that made this war possible. For a morning already full of smoke, the hardest thing is that pity and judgment have to stand in the same street without making either one disappear. You look at the people near you and understand why easy answers fail. The old woman sitting on the stone did not plan air raids. The child coughing into a dirty sleeve did not choose invasion routes. The refugee clutching a bag did not sit at a table drawing borders or giving orders. Many people in the city had lived under the same regime, repeated its words, feared it, believed it, obeyed it, or kept quiet because quiet was safer. None of that is clean. None of it makes the child's cough less real. The street does not let you solve it. It only places the facts together. Nazi Germany brought disaster across Europe. Dresden's civilians were inside the country that carried that disaster outward. Then, in one night, the war came back into cellars, stairwells, kitchens, sleeping rooms, and streets full of people who had no power over strategy. You can understand why the war had to be fought and still feel the weight of civilians being crushed under it. A man nearby holds a small bundle and stares at the ruins behind him. His face does not ask anyone to forgive a regime. It does not explain politics. It does not make speeches. It only shows exhaustion. A woman wipes ash from a child's cheek and leaves a darker smear behind. The child blinks slowly, too tired to cry properly. This is what the morning gives you. Not a clear moral picture, but human bodies standing inside history's consequences. A history book can divide sides into armies, states, and leaders, but on a street like this, the cost has hands, faces, coughs, and shoes covered in ash. You feel the danger of telling the story wrongly. If someone speaks only of the burning city, they may forget what Nazi Germany did to other cities, other families, other children. If someone speaks only of guilt, they may stop seeing the ordinary people in the basement who had been holding cloth to their mouths and waiting for air. Both mistakes are easy. Both make the story smaller than it is. You remember the basement again. The crowded floor, the hot door. The child is trying to breathe. The people who did not know whether opening the door would someone or kill everyone inside. In that room, no one held a map. No one chose the raid. No one controlled the planes. They only inherited the night from decisions made far above them by governments, commanders, systems, and years of war already soaked in cruelty. That is not innocence. It is not guilt either, at least not in the simple way people want after a disaster. It is the hardest place in between, where human beings can live inside a guilty nation and still suffer as human beings. You can see the crimes of the regime and still see the fear in a civilian's face. You can refuse to excuse the war and still refuse to turn every person in the ashes into something less than human. What stays with you is that mercy for the suffering does not have to become mercy for the regime that helped create the suffering. The morning keeps moving. Smoke thins a little. People begin to search again. Someone asks for water. Someone calls a name. Someone lifts a brick with both hands and sets it aside. The ruined city does not become easier to judge because the light improves. It becomes harder because daylight shows more people, more damage, and more ordinary things left behind. You look at the civilians standing in the grey ruin and understand that war often reaches people who never sat close to power, but still lived under its shadow. It uses their homes, their streets, their silence, their fear, their obedience, their helplessness, and finally their bodies. It makes victims where it has already become accomplices, bystanders, believers, and people too small to change anything. That is why the story feels so uncomfortable. Dresden is difficult because it asks you to hold two truths at once. Nazi Germany was not innocent. The civilians in the fire were not all commanders, planners, or executioners. The city burned in a criminal war, and the people in its basement suffered in that same war. Looking at them honestly means not using their suffering to excuse the regime, and not using the regime's crimes to erase their suffering. Dresden stands in the grey morning as a place where blame does not vanish, and pity does not come easily. You can understand the crimes of Nazi Germany and still see the civilians in the cellars, the children in the smoke, and the old people standing among ruins they never had the power to prevent. By the time you leave that morning behind, the last burden is not deciding whether survival was a victory, but understanding what kind of life can continue after a city, a memory, and a person have all been burned through. Leaving the night behind does not mean the night leaves you. That is the quiet truth waiting in the grey morning. The basement is no longer around your body. The hot door is behind you. The smoke is thinner now. The fire has pulled back in places. People can stand, walk, search, and speak in small, tired voices. From far away, someone might say you survived. Standing there in the ash, that word feels too clean. You are alive, that is true. Your chest still rises. Your feet still move. Your hands can still touch the muscle object in your pocket, the one you picked from the ruins, because leaving it behind felt wrong. But the person who heard the siren the night before is not the same person standing in the street now. That person still had a room with a table, a coat, a cup, and an unfinished evening. You have ash on your clothes in a city that no longer knows how to look familiar. There is no cheering, no clean relief, no bright feeling that danger has ended properly. Around you, Dresden is blackened, quiet, and broken open. Some people walk through the street as if looking for a place where the old city might still be hiding. Others sit because their bodies have finally refused to keep moving. A few still call names, some no longer call at all. Morning has arrived, but it has not repaired anything. For all the effort it took to stay alive, survival offers no neat reward, only another breath in a place that no longer feels whole. You pass the kind of things you will remember later without wanting to. A doorway with no room behind it. A child's shoe near a wall. A cup still pale under ash. A woman holding a coat too small for her own body. A man standing before a burned foundation with nothing in his hands. These are not grand images of war. They are smaller than that. That is why they stay. They enter memory quietly and wait there. The street is quieter now, but calm is not peace. Calm only means the worst sounds have stopped for the moment. It does not mean the city is safe. It does not mean people have been found. It does not mean houses have returned. You understand that the long part begins after the fire. The long part is where people look for relatives, water, shelter, names, papers, and any object that proves their life existed before the night. You look back once toward the direction of the basement. It is strange to think that you wanted so badly to leave it. It had been hot, crowded, breathless and frightening. Yet it was also the last place where many people were still together, before the city became too wide, too bright, and too ruined to understand. The memory of that room stays in your body. Bad air, dust, cloth at the mouth, faces turned toward the door, the handle no one wanted to touch. A person can escape a room and still carry its walls inside the chest for years. You keep walking because standing still makes the mind sink too deeply into what has happened. Your shoes scrape through ash, your throat still hurts, your eyes feel raw. Each step takes you farther from the basement, but not farther from the night. The fire has entered more than one building. It has entered the way you will hear sirens, the way you will look at doors, the way silence will feel before sleep, the way morning light can show too much. This is why the ending cannot feel like victory. You have not defeated the night. You have only outlasted it. There is a difference. Defeat belongs to armies and maps. Outlasting belongs to the body. It is dirt under fingernails, a dry mouth, weak legs, and the strange guilt of seeing daylight when others did not. You are not lifted out of the story. You are left inside its remains. Somewhere nearby, a person bends to pick through the rubble. Another person helps an older neighbor across broken stone. A child coughs into a sleeve. Life begins again in poor, damaged movements. Not because anyone is ready, not because the city has forgiven the night, only because hunger, cold, grief, and the need to find the missing do not wait for people to feel strong. What stays with you is the heavy kindness of those small movements, people helping one another while still looking as if they themselves might fall apart. You understand now that Dresden will not end when the flames die down. It will continue in memory, in stories people avoid telling, in objects pulled from ash, in rooms rebuilt over places that still feel wrong, in the faces of people who stop speaking when the night comes too close again. A city can be rebuilt with stone, wood, glass, and time. A person is rebuilt more slowly, if at all. The war around Dresden was not simple, and the suffering inside it was not simple either. Nazi Germany had carried destruction across Europe and brought ruin upon countless people. That truth remains. But the civilians in the basement still coughed, trembled, searched, lost, and remembered. That truth remains, too. The night leaves you with both, and neither makes the other. You walk through the morning with ash behind you and ash ahead of you. There is no clean doorway waiting, no room exactly as you left it, no version of yourself untouched by the smoke, the siren, the basement, the hot handle, the red street, the grey dawn, the small cup, the ruined home. All of it has become part of what you will carry. By now, the city is quieter. The fire still breathes in places, but less loudly. People move like shadows that have learned to keep going. You do not know where you will sleep. You do not know who will be found. You do not know what will be rebuilt or what will only be remembered. You only know that you are still here, and being still here is heavier than you once thought survival could be. You leave the fire, the basement, and the broken street behind, but none of them truly release you. Dresden remains in the ash on your hands, in the taste of smoke in your throat, and in the quiet knowledge that living through a night is not the same as escaping it. So let the city grow silent now. Let the room around you become dark and calm again, and wherever you are listening from, good night, sleep well, and may your own world feel softer than this one.